Hello. The game has started. It's my opponent to go first. I can't see a 7, but this is a good rack. I would have Hogmains through an E, Mahjongs through a J, and there may be others. And if I can't bingo, I've got scoring tiles. There's the E. I've got Hogmains. Do I have something better? Hogmains doesn't get doubled. So, what about the P? Can't see anything there. There may be something through the A. Can't see anything. Can't see anything with the W. The E, I've got Hogmains. The D. Can't see anything. Okay, well, it's good to get a bingo down with one's opening rack. Happens about 1 game in 7. Hogmains, 67. Pretty good. That looks close to a bingo. Candidly through a D. D of Port is now obstructed. I'm wondering about Lycenid through an E. Oh, it's adenilic through an E, and possibly it has an anagram, but no E's available at the moment. I suspect there's quite a few bingos here, but they're not easy to see. My opponent's provided no new... well, he's provided the F. That doesn't help. So, what about the P? Can't see anything there. I'm looking mainly for words ending ly or ILY. I don't think Dancily is good. Can't see anything through the A. Or the W. Candidly is obstructed. Can't see anything through the S. The A I've already considered, and the M. Well, there may be something here, but I'm not seeing it. I've got HO to consider. And OP. Okay, none of those is giving me anything. So, I've got my Y. I note that it can go above the A of Hogmain, so I could play Your. And that's quite nice. It gives nothing away. Rack leaves okay. 32 points is a good score. Wow, that couldn't have been much better. I draw a blank and a vowel. And I surely do have a bingo here. So, what to consider first? I suppose the F. I don't have an E or an S. So it might be hard to spot the bingo. Can't see anything with the F. Can't see anything beginning with the M. Well, I was optimistic when I saw this rack, but I still haven't seen anything. Now, what about the A? I could have a play beginning here. It would be nice to have one bingo before I start looking for a better one. And I'm absolutely convinced there are several bingos which play with this rack and board. Well, I'm going to run through the alphabet and see if what comes into my mind. I'm keeping in mind the floaters M, D, S, A, and P. Haven't seen anything yet. Now, does that make anything with an A? Well, can't see it. That gives me the ing ending, so I would have scolding. That doesn't work. 16 minutes on my clock. So, I still haven't seen anything which works. Let me just keep these letters in alphabetical order. Gosh. I wasn't expecting this to be this hard. That looks like there's something with an A, but I'm not seeing it. Let me just go back. Scaldino is good, I think. That doesn't work here. Now, what about daltonic? I'm inclined to try it. That does at least fit. Daltonic, not totally sure of that. Uncoiled through an E. Well, that's pretty dismal. The only thing I've seen is daltonic, and I'm not even sure of that. But time is ticking down, so I need to do something. I think I'll have a go with this. It'll be pretty annoying if it comes off. Daltonic 74. If it stays on, I've drawn the second blank. Just scroll down so we can see what happens. Just waiting to see if my opponent challenges this. I know I would challenge it if my opponent played it. And I may struggle with this rack as well. I'm just wondering if Paul takes an S in front. It could do. Now, do I have a bingo here? While my opponent is waiting to play, I think I'll have a look for sevens. And then consider floaters afterwards. DWEEB is a 6. So no sevens come to mind so far. There may not be any here. Okay, so I can't see a 7. What do I need to consider as floaters? I think because I have 3 vowels, I should consider first consonants. Can't see anything with the M. I'm imagining the Y as being at the end of the word and the LY ending word, most likely. Now, what about the N? That's probably the likeliest floater. Great, daltonic not challenged. Find out later if it's good. And I've got another tricky rack because I'm fairly sure there's a bingo here, but none have come to mind. What has my opponent provided? He's provided an F, not massively helpful, and the N duplicates this N. I've got the ISO prefix with YEC. I've got Saito as a prefix. I've got ISE as an ending. Well, there may not be a play here, and it may be, given the time, 14 minutes left, 54 tiles still to come, it may be that I ought to play rather than look for a bingo which isn't here. So my Y can go next to the F. So if I played YO, I'd have a great rack leave. So even if I've missed a bingo, I'm probably not sacrificing too much by way of equity. CEIS blank is pretty good. 28 points is quite nice. Don't think Honey is good. Just wondering if I should play Yo or Low. The trouble with playing low is that my opponent could stick an X here for a cheap 50 points. I am, however, keeping this N available, but since there's an N available up here, and since this rack is so strong, I think I will play down here. Right, I have Missight, and I think Elfin takes an S, and I think Pord may take an S, and Missight plays down here because is good. Watch takes an A and an S in front. So, what's going to be best? I think what will be best is, well, I think getting the points for watch rather than just the H means that a play in row A is going to be better. And what's going to be best is if I can get the M here. So it's probably going to look like this. So it's either going to end M something S, or it could end ISE. I think I'll find it easier to spot a bingo by running through the alphabet. "12 minutes on my clock, but I'm not worried because I'm sure, well, I know I've got a bingo here. I've got Missight. And actually, my C could go on this double letter square just as well as the M in terms of score. Haven't seen anything else apart from Missight, which only plays down here. Just wondering about epicism. That would certainly hit everything. I think it's good. I'm going for it. It'll be pretty slack if this comes off. Epicism 103. Not a nice rack. Just waiting to see if my opponent challenges this. I have some doubt about it. Great, look at that. Challenged, it stays on. My opponent loses 5 points. I've now got 100 and something point lead. My opponent takes out that triple word square. I've got an awful rack, but I've got a 150 point lead. I think Elfin takes a G. In fact, I know it does. So I could play Vug down here, getting rid of my problem tiles. But that leaves a vowel-heavy rack leave. However, the K means that that's not so bad. When you've got a high-scoring tile, they tend to go well with vowels. But can I do better than Vug? It would be nice to play off one more vowel. So onto an E, I would have Vogue or Vooge. Well, I'm not seeing anything. Not a great board. Vug keeps the board tight. I'm not sure if Elfing takes an S after it. I don't think it does. I will not be trying it. The N is possible for a play, but I can't see anything. It's tempting to play Vug. 9 minutes on my clock, 37 tiles left, so I certainly can't spend very long looking for a better play. To an I would have Vigia, but that's keeping GU. Now I could play Vug up here, 18. 24 down below. And actually this is quite good because if Elfin takes an S, then row N is a good bingo lane, and this is killing it, 24. And it's not providing anything for my opponent. He can't access this triple word square at the bottom left. My rack's improved. There could be a bingo here, but it's unlikely. However, I've got scoring tiles in the K and the B, and it's a balanced rack with no duplicates. My K can go on the end of Hon, but nothing goes after Opt that I've got. 35 points for my opponent. Now, row C is quite hot. I could play Cora. But is there a play with the B as well? I'm really thinking of just cranking up the score here. Or maximising the score, rather. So a play with B and K. Sticking an O or an A underneath the Z. Eight minutes on my clock, 30 tiles left. Well, I'm not seeing the BK play. There may not be one. Cora plays off the R, but there are 4 R's to come. This doesn't feel great, sticking the O here. This is a very hot lane I'm creating. I'm only getting 27 points. Am I missing a hotter spot for my K? Or I could keep my K for score and play Broad, which helps to expedite the end of the game by playing off more tiles. It doesn't create anything particularly hot for my opponent. It scores a lot more points, and I'm keeping KI, which should give me a good score next go. Well, it's nice to see the X, not so nice to see 3 I's, but I've got a 164 point lead. Wow, 58 points for my opponent. Great play by him. Didn't realise I was creating a hot opportunity, and I don't think I was. It just happens to have fitted his rack really well. Now I can play Ixia in row C. I've got Ixia on my rack, in case that plays somewhere. Can't see anywhere. Slightly annoying that my opponent scored so well here, because the rest of the board is fairly locked down in terms of scoring opportunities and bingo lanes. The floating O and N of Daltonic are available, but that's about it. 6 minutes on my clock. 20 tiles left. Ixia, 22. And that obstructs the O and the N. It now means that bingos have to begin with those tiles. I've still got the K for score. I'm keeping in mind this queue in case I have a play at some point down here. Not that I have anything particularly in mind with this rack. So I'd like to play off a T and an I because they're duplicates. I'd also like to play off the K. And this board is really, really tight. I don't want to create a scoring spot for my opponent. Broad takes an A in front. I can't really use that to good effect. Tilak is good. Can't see anywhere for that. Yak is good. But nothing goes after Dan. Well, I'm 100 points in front. So I'm in good shape, but there's only 5 minutes on the clock, which is not very much. So I am struggling here. Just struggling to see anything at all. Well, so why don't I just play the duplicates? 15 points. I'm in a similar position to before, but I haven't created anything for my opponent, so he may create something for me. Ooh, E-Ruvs. Is that good? Let's find out. Yes, it is. Gosh. I know E-Ruvin and E-Ruvim are good. So, an unexpected and good bingo for my opponent. He's only 46 points behind now. Remaining tiles are bingo-y. He could bingo again, especially with an S out there. So, have I been complacent? Can I take out these new floaters? Tricky. Very difficult to do so in a way which doesn't create a new floater. Maybe I can just play along here, parallel to relents. I can't play parallel and play the K, but the K I can stay on my rack as a scoring tile. So what about Lota? This makes it hard for my opponent to bingo in row L because it requires a lot of overlaps. 18 points. Well, the score's neither here nor there. I think my opponent can win if he bingos and will lose if he doesn't bingo. Just wondering about playing Litai, Litai, to leave one in the bag. But I'm not totally sure of that, and I'm mindful of the time, just 2 minutes left. A nice balanced rack. I draw the S, so my opponent doesn't have it. The remaining tiles are now looking less bingo-y, although there could easily be a bingo play here. I'm not going to spend my time worrying about that. I've got a 64-point lead. So even if my opponent bingos, I have a chance of winning, especially if I can score well with the J and the K. So I'm looking... I've only got 2 minutes on my clock, so I won't have very long to play them. And if my opponent bingos, it's likely to be in this bottom section of the board. At the moment, I can't see anywhere for my J and K. Well, Jack and Elk works. And if my opponent bingos, he'll be picking up 2 tiles, so if Jack is still playable, he won't be able to reach this triple word square by playing down here. My opponent has no scoring tiles, so he really does have to bingo or lose, I think. Now, what else is available for my J and K? I'm expecting to have only one more. Well, if my opponent bingos, I'm expecting to have only one more play. But if he doesn't, I could have 2. So I don't have to play off the J and the K in one go. But if I do, Jack, Jake, and Jakes are all good. 14 points for my opponent. I can see what he's got. I don't think he has a bingo. So, but what he can do is now reach this triple word square. 2 minutes on my clock. I can play jacks for 33. Keeping I-R-E. So I've got Rive down here. And Aya across here. So I can certainly go out with this. I've got a 50-point lead. I don't think my opponent can bingo with this rack unless he's got something through NA. So, is this the right play? Should I be holding on to my S? No particular reason to do that. Well, I suspect there could be a better play here, but I'm running out of time. And I suspect in particular that there's a better play because I'm expecting my opponent to play down from this J onto this triple word square. And that was avoidable. 12 minutes on my opponent's clock, 1 minute on mine. Aya in row F, 12 points. Can't remember where my other spot was. 36 points for my opponent. Well, it was Rive, and that doesn't score as much as this does. So 12 points, 58 seconds left. Can I score more than 12 points with Aya? Nope, I don't think so. Just wait for my opponent to formally end the game. Which he does. And the final score, 400 to my opponent, 467 to me. A winning margin of 67 points. So a good win. Let's see what I missed. It was my opponent to go fast. He played Pawed, and that was just what I wanted to see, an E, because it gave me hog mains. My opponent's rack, he plays Fop. Now, what did I miss? No bingo. Wow, I'm surprised. I thought I had missed something. What I played here was Yaw for 32. Not a fabulous rack leave. But the remaining moves score about the same or less. And the rack leaves are also bad because they're only 1 or 2 tiles long. And I like Yaw because it gave nothing away. My opponent plays Ant. Now, I played Daltonic. It does have an anagram, anti-cold, for fewer points. And the only other bingo, Codlings, playable at A4 through this G. Wow, I was expecting a lot more bingos, so delighted to have spotted Daltonic. My opponent's rack, he plays Elfin. And I have Society. Wow. Well, that was a miss there, and it plays at N4. So what that shows is that Elfins is good, and that Spored is not good. So Society was the bingo. Well done if you spotted that. I didn't. Instead, I played Yo for 28, so 50 points less. A great rack lead, which is worth at least 40 points, so I probably dropped about 10 to 20 points of equity. My opponent's rack, he plays Watch. Now, these were the bingos. Epicism, the one I played for 103. Simacy's also available for the same score. And then a whole bunch of others. My opponent's rack, he plays Erev. Now my rack deteriorates. Vadji or Vaggy across Hevegi, across here, not so good because it opens up the triple word square, so I prefer Vug, though it's not on this list. Ah, Gov across here. Well, possibly better than Vug. I think it scores more. Anyway, I think Vug is fine. My opponent's rack, he plays Zeta. And I played Broad, which I thought was good, and probably is good, but it gave my opponent just what he needed for Queer. My rack, I played Ixia, and at this point I was mindful of the time, and I played this fairly quickly. I didn't think it was a great play. D11. Catty playable across here. Quite nice, although it's keeping the duplicate eye, it's scoring a lot more points, and it's keeping the power tile in the X, which promises good scores to come. But probably not much between those two. My opponent's rack, he plays B. And now, look at this. All the scores 20 or below, all the rack leaves awful. So this is a typical horrible rack to face. I can't even remember what I did. I played it. Okay, which actually does make the list. It for 15, and I think that's fine. This is a balanced rack leave. It's slightly constant heavy, no duplicates. It's keeping a scoring tile, and it gives nothing away. Nice play by my opponent. Relents for 69. Just as the game was feeling comfortable, it became anything but at this point, with my opponent just one bingo away, with bingo-y tiles remaining. Now, this was my rack. Well, I didn't think of Caxon, but that doesn't block these floaters, and that has to be a priority. So, well, I'm not sure any of these plays really take into account the importance of blocking or taking out these floaters. So I like Lota. Does my opponent have a bingo? Well, he doesn't. Would he have had a bingo through one of these floaters? I think he may have done, but none's springing to mind. This was my rack, and Jack's was my play. My opponent's rack, he still doesn't have a bingo. He plays Jong. And I played Aya for 12, but look at that. F6, your ear was playable for 10 more points, so 10 points needlessly thrown away at the death. It didn't affect the result. It was a win, so quite a good game. I hope you enjoyed watching that, and I will see you next time.